Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to give it a minute here to let things kind of get started, people to roll into the stream today. We got a little bit of an unplanned event strategized for you guys today. So we'll let people kind of roll in and then we'll get started. I'll step in the frame here and say hello. How's it going, everybody? My name is Josh. I'm here with Open Source Steel. I came online, I think a week or two ago. We did a live demonstration for you guys of some extraction. And today I think I wanted to just revisit that process a little bit more and talk about some more advanced extraction techniques. Last week it was kind of just the introduction to extraction. And today I kind of want to expand upon that and talk about a little bit more. So you guys can see we have the same machine that we were working with last week's setup. But today I've kind of configured things a little bit different. We're going to switch it up, and the first thing you're going to notice is that we got this extra little bottle sitting over here. I'll step over to the side so you guys can see that. This over here is our nitrogen bottle, and this is going to be used today for our pressure. And the reason we're going to use that nitrogen and need that pressure is because our solvent is over here in this dry ice bin. So our tank, our solvent tank, stainless steel solvent tank is inside of here, and what we got is dry ice surrounding the tank, nice and packed around. And that tank has been sitting there for a number of hours today, so it is extremely cold. And why is this important? Well, for extractions, it's important that you want to get things as cold as possible because things will stay in their solid form when they're cold. Things have different melting points and boiling points, and so throughout the extraction process we want to make sure to keep a number of these things solid in form so that when they go through filters and things like that, that things are not melting or going through our filters and they're staying solid. So the first thing we're going to make sure to keep behind when we do cold solvent extraction is, one, we're going to try and remove as much moisture as possible because our solvent is so cold, and usually your material is also going to be cold, and that's going to make sure to retain all those moisture into crystal form or solid ice form. Also, any plant fats or lipids are going to stay behind, so they're going to coagulate together and stay in their solid form. And any filtration that we have going on in the extractor, which is in this area, is going to allow us to remove any of those lipids or fats by keeping them solid. And then any sort of plant material or plant matter that we don't want to, like, chlorophylls and things like that, of course, the filtration is going to help with that as well. That is really the main reason we do a cold solvent extraction, is we want to remove impurities, right? We want to retain the most pure compounds that we're looking for. Also, it helps with retaining terpenes because those terpenes are very volatile at warmer temperatures, at room temperatures. The cold solvent extraction is going to help with your live resins and just overall with your terpene production out of your plant material. It's also going to give you a much, much, much colder extraction, which is going to keep the pressures down in your system. So you're not going to have, higher pressures with warm solvents and things like that. And overall, it's the route you want to go for extraction. If we can keep things cold, that's the route we want to take. So I've got my nitrogen bottle set up over here, and I got a handheld today. So I'll show you guys. Let me switch over. Let me show you guys a little bit what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you guys a close-up of our nitrogen bottle. So I got a little handheld cam today for you guys. I'm going to show you how we have things configured, all right? And what you're going to need to buy if you're going to go to the store and want to get a setup for nitrogen pressure assist. So first of all, you're going to need some sort of nitrogen bottle, and in here we have compressed nitrogen gas. It's not in liquid form. This bottle here is around 2,000 psi of pressure when I open up the bottle fully. It's a little bit lower right now because it's been used, so we're under 500 psi. So this bottle has been used quite a bit. But when you get this bottle, you're going to have quite a high pressure in here, and so the next thing you're going to want to do is add a regulator. This here is a gas regulator, and let me show you two sides here. One, this side is going to show you the pressure that's inside the bottle on the right-hand side, and this gauge over here is going to be what you regulate the outlet pressure to. So if you turn it up to the right, you see that my gauge is increasing, and if I turn it to the left, it decreases, okay? So this is where you're going to get all the pressure from in this cold solvent extraction. Because when we cool down our tank over here, let me show you guys the gauge. Hopefully you guys can see this. Get a little tight view on the gauge here. Our gauge in this ice it has no pressure. In fact, it's under a vacuum state right now because the liquid solvent in here has gone to its liquid state. It is no longer in really a gas state, so there's no gas inside the cylinder creating pressure, and that's why our gauge is below 0 psi on the gauge. So the only way we can get this liquid solvent to flow through our lines here and go into our extractor is to use some additional pressure, and hopefully we can get this camera to focus, is to get some additional pressure to push that liquid. So today we're going to demonstrate that. We got some people commenting in here. We got Dylan and Raul, Sean in the house saying, awesome, hell yeah. Welcome to the stream, you guys. Raul saying, is this QVC? Digging the mic. Thank you. I upgraded from last time, the microphone I was using on the last stream. I don't know, it wasn't really cutting it for me, so I went out and got me a headset so that you guys can hear me properly. Continuing on, so the liquid is going to be pushed with our nitrogen up through our hoses, just like a normal extraction. It's going to flood over our column, and of course I got to make this disclaimer to everybody out there watching the stream that there is absolutely no cannabis in this machine. Today is going to be a complete dry run of the machine, so we're going to be emulating or simulating an extraction with cannabis. There's going to be no product in here. But that liquid solvent is going to flow down through our material column and into our evaporation or collection base down here. And we're going to heat that collection base up, and we're going to evaporate off any gases that are remaining in the collection base. And those gases are going to evaporate through the recovery line over here, through our molecular sieve, which I'll get you guys a close-up of here in a bit. That's going to dry out any of the moisture in the gas. So I was talking about freezing that moisture before. If by chance any moisture gets extracted during this process, well, that sieve is going to help protect your pumps and also make sure that no moisture gets in your tanks when you recover the gases. So the sieve is there to dry out any gas passing through this cylinder. It's got a bunch of beads in there, much like those little gel beads you get inside of a fresh new pair of shoes or something like that. They absorb the moisture. It's a very similar thing. That liquid or that gas is going to go as a gas through this line, and it's going to recondense back into our tank. And the reason it's going to want to condense is because our tank is cold. We got hot on one side and we got cold on another with the tank over here. So in theory, what we're going to have is we're going to have the gas evaporating and condensing back in the tank, and it's all going to happen without the use of any pumps or any active recovery involved. So today we're going to show you two things: pressure assist with nitrogen, and 2, passive recovery. So there's no pumps involved. This is a pretty simple process here, hopefully to kind of slim it down for you. Dylan saying, no Band-Aids. I like it. That's the saying we have around here, and this should be a saying you guys all use in your life. No Band-Aids means no temporary fixes, right? We want to make permanent solutions to problems. So the headset's not a Band-Aid, it's a solution. We got Brent Liana in the house saying, here from Oregon, smiley face. What's up, Brent? Appreciate you tuning in. And we got Jeff Caladrone in the house also saying, yee! Welcome to the stream, everybody. All right. So a couple important things I want to talk about before we really get into it is safety. Now, I gotta cover this topic every time we do the stream like this because safety is, of course, of the utmost importance. You don't want to put your life at risk doing this process. We're working with gases and vessels that can be under pressure. We want to make sure that we're doing things correct. So first things first, I've gone ahead and put together the machine, tightened all the seals on the unit. So I've taken my wrenches, and you can see I got a couple of them laying on the floor here. So I keep always extra tools laying around. I got me a 16 millimeter spanner wrench to tighten any of the clamps. And then, of course, I got my 2 crescent wrenches in case I need to tighten any of the threaded joints or anything like that in case I find a leak. So I always set those off to the side with the extractor and have them prepared in case I need to go grab them. Check, check, check. Are we good? I think we should be good here. Sorry about that, you guys. Walking back over here. Check, check, check. All right, looks like we're good. Sorry about that. The headset batteries died, so we're back up and running. All right. So you guys, before I got cut off because of the batteries here, I was just going over safety. So I'm going to review what I was just saying there. Is after I got the machine put together with clamps, after I got all my hoses tightened down, I need to make sure that we do two things. And one is pressurize the system. So I've already gone ahead and done some air, took my compressor, I pumped this up to 100 PSI. If you guys didn't hear that earlier, I took this thing up to 100 PSI, and I made sure to make that needle sit there for a couple of hours without moving at all. Okay, if your needle starts to drop a little bit slowly over 15, 20 minutes, an hour even, you've got a leak of some sorts and you need to identify it. So get out the spray bottle. So I take the spray bottle with soap in it, come over to the joints, spray down every little joint with a connection on it, and look for little micro bubbles. Okay, if you see micro bubbles, you need to go in there and tighten it down. The next thing is after you do pressure, we need to do vacuum. So I've gone ahead and done this, but I'll show you guys. I got the vacuum pump hooked up over here, and I'm going to flip it on. It's hooked up to this hose right here. I'm going to go ahead and open the valve. And I want to wait for all of my gauges on the extractor in every point. I got one down here on the collection vessel to reach a full negative 30 Hg vacuum. It's important that we get all the way down to a full vacuum and let it sit there for at least a good minute or two just to make sure that any remaining air molecules get sucked out of the system. Like I said, I did this before the stream here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, save us some time. Once your system is held under pressure and also held under vacuum, it's safe for you to go ahead and do the extraction. You want to make sure you do both of these steps because your system is going to experience both pressure and vacuum. So this system sat under vacuum again for a couple of hours as well. So I know everything here is completely airtight, sealed up, and there's not going to be any leaks during the extraction. Okay. Yo, Jesse Wainwright says, I just saw this done amazingly fast. Awesome. Thank you for joining. All right, so now that we're ready to extract, you know, it's pretty simple. I know we did it on the previous stream, but there's going to be a couple things that are going to be different here, and I want to show you guys what we're going to do. So I'm going to switch over to my handheld cam here and get it focused in. Now, I'm going to run you guys down the hosing one more time so you guys get a good idea of what's going on. This nitrogen bottle, again, is going to be all of our pressure for today's operation. I have a short hose hooked right into the vapor port of our tank. This pressure is going to force nitrogen gas into that bottle, which is going to force the liquid up through this hose here, all the way over to the extractor, into here, down the tube, right? So we're going to go down the extractor tube. The liquid is going to fall into the base down here, where we're going to heat that base up, and gases are going to be recovered out of this line here, into the bottom of the sieve, come up to the top, out of that line, right back into the tank. Okay, so it's pretty simple. This is just going to be our main gas pedal right here, this bottle of nitrogen. This is what we're going to use to push everything, and we don't need a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and open up all my valves to get ready for the push of liquid. So I'm opening up my main liquid injection line here so that the gas can flow through. I got my main dump valve over here opened. Okay, I want to make sure that my main recovery lines are going to be open. Okay, this one is open, this one is open. The only one that's not open is the one remaining on the tank. So now all I got to do is open this one to do liquid and this one to recover gas. So now we've got a complete loop. All right, and one last thing I want to talk about is this nitrogen. Since we're using a secondary gas for the extraction, we need to off-gas that nitrogen somewhere. So you can see I have another hose line connected right to the top of the extractor. This hose line right here is literally running all the way outside. So you guys can see it goes down to the floor, over there, out underneath the door. So we have an exhaust line running from the extractor in case we need to off-gas any sort of nitrogen during this process, and this is going to be the way it is. We got some question in here. Let's see. Brad Wines is saying, just got my nitrogen set up last month. Makes it so much easier. Chris is saying, why use nitrogen for pressure instead of heat? Well, we went over this, Chris. Heat will cause you to bring over impurities, and that's what we're trying to remove. We're trying to remove impurities during the extraction, trying to concentrate our product and remove any fats, lipids, any sort of water content, freeze it up. So liquid extraction under 0 degrees is going to help produce the best results for that. Awesome. Jeff is saying, how much is this setup turnkey? Jeff, you know, I'm not sure. This one I just put together for the demo. If you really want to quote, if you're serious, please email us at sales@opensourcesteel.com. I'll get one of my guys to give you guys a quote. Send it to your email in case you want to purchase something like this. Stanley is saying, hi from Vegas. Hey, Stanley. He's saying, what's the capacity of this extractor? Stanley, good question. Here, this material column here can hold 2.5 pounds of dried material. The tank holds 25 pounds of solvent, so really, if you're doing a 5-to-1 solvent ratio, it's going to be around a maximum of 5 pounds that tank can do, but this system has a 2.5 pound tank on it, or a 2.5 pound tube on it. It only has to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Butane boils off at 32 degrees. You know what, Chris, you got a really good point, okay? That is for the recovery process. You only need a little bit of heat in order to get butane to evaporate. You are correct. The butane does have a boiling point of around 30.2 degrees Fahrenheit. But the thing is during the extraction, we want to keep it cold. It's during the recovery phase that, yes, we can apply 90 degree Fahrenheit water, which we're going to do to the jacketed base over here today. But you also got to be careful about evaporating off terpenes, because terpenes can actually boil off below 90 degrees. So cold solvent extraction and also being careful with temperatures on recovery can help you preserve more terpenes, and we'll talk about that later. So enough yapping. I want to show you guys the extraction. But before I do this, I want to set up this camera angle here. I got this sweet little camera angle. We did this last time. And I want to see if I can throw this in again for you. It's going to take me a second to set it up here, but if you guys got patience, I promise you it'll be worth it. I'm going to get you a nice shot of the inside dump. Oops, dropped my camera. I'm going to get you guys a rad shot of the dump as we go through with the nitrogen here. I got to get me a flashlight, which is in the other room, so if you give me just 1 second, I'll go grab the flashlight. You got a flashlight in your office? The cup. Yeah. All right. What? Oh, on the extractor? Okay, yeah, sure. So Elliot's over here watching the stream. He's going to be producer. He's going to come in and make it a little bit better of a shot for you guys. He said closer up would be better, I think. So maybe we'll do that. I got me a light now. So let's see if you can see in there. Perfect. I'll get it set up with some tape too so that we can be hands-free. We'll Jimmy rig this here. I did this last time. I think I can get it to work again. Just need her to kind of hold in there, buddy. All right. How's that? Looks pretty good. All right. So Elliot's got me close up. We got a good shot of the dump here, which should be a nice spectacular little angle here. All right. So with that, you guys will be able to see the dump. And as I open up the nitrogen bottle here. All right, so let's get it, you guys. Again, I'm going to cover in brief detail what we're going to do here, what the procedure is. I'm going to open up my liquid line, and as I do that, nothing's going to move. That liquid is staying there, but I'm also going to open up my nitrogen. And as I do that, you guys, there we go. Oops. All right, so now I got liquid flowing into my collection vessel over here. cold solvent. If I need to, I can come over. Stupid light. Sorry about this. What I can do is come over here and regulate some more pressure if I need to. To be honest, though, I think we don't have much liquid coming over here. I'm going to push it, see if we got some more. There we go. I'm watching from the camera over here. I'm not really looking at it closely. We're not pushing with much pressure, you guys. I'm using just maybe 10 psi. All right, we're good there. I've pretty much pushed all the liquid out of here. I'm going to turn my regulator down and off. Okay. So I have my liquid now in my collection vessel pushed with my nitrogen. But before I begin evaporating all this solvent off, what I want to do is I want to bleed any nitrogen that I've just used to push that cold solvent through here. And you can see my tube is frosted over. My hoses are also frozen. So what I want to do is I want to basically bleed out any of that nitrogen out of the system. So this is why I've hooked up this top line. So now that I've done the liquid extraction, and you guys can see it didn't take very much time, I have about 40 psi inside this vessel. So now what I want to do is I want to relieve some of this pressure, some of this nitrogen. Oh, it's closed. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go. What's that? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is open this up, and I can hear some nitrogen being bled off out there. It's bleeding off the headspace right now. And you guys can see what I'm doing is there's a cloud of smoke that just evaporated out of there. And now I'm going to close that because I've evacuated pretty much all the nitrogen out of the system. Let's bleed it off a couple times. And now what I can safely do is start my recovery process. Now that the nitrogen is removed of the system, we have no more nitrogen gas in there. It's just strictly liquid butane in there. I'm going to go ahead and start the recovery. So I'm going to kick on my my water heater over here. I'm going to plug it in, let it turn on. Somebody on the stream there was talking about temperatures. A good temperature is around 90 degrees Fahrenheit to be safe. So I'm going to set this around 40 degrees Celsius, which I think is somewhere in the range of 90 to 100 degrees. If I'm correct. For today, though, there's no oils in this machine, so just a solvent is going to be fine to evaporate at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now what I'm also going to do is open up my recovery lines because we're doing a passive recovery. And as soon as I do this, you guys, I heard a whistle start, and immediately it's going to start evaporating back into the tank. And as we do this, this bottom base is going to heat up. Like I showed you guys on the last stream, we got heated water running through this base over here. And as it begins to get warmer and warmer, this liquid in here, the solvent in here, is going to evaporate faster and faster. We're not using any pumps today. So we're just going to use the cold solvent on ice over here to help evaporate or condense all of our liquid butane, or our gas, our butane, back into a liquid state. Let's see if I can give you a close-up on this. So you can see things are just starting to evaporate down in the collection chamber. That cold solvent is starting to warm up. And as we recirculate hot water through the base, it's going to get it warmer and warmer. That solvent came in under 0 degrees Celsius, so we got to heat things up. Now from this point on, it's as simple as waiting. The waiting game is just sitting here waiting for the solvent to evaporate, waiting for it to condense back into the tank. And at the end of this process, what you're going to be left with is your oils, your hash oils. Or other people out there might be extracting other products like lavender or things like that. But for most of the people tuning in, it'd be for hash oils or cannabis extractions. Let's see, we got some questions going on in here. How long does the finished material sit in the tank? Are you talking about the solvent that's being evaporated? It doesn't sit in there for very long. It only takes, in this process we won't see maybe a 20-minute, 30-minute at max. We don't have much solvent in there, to be honest with you. Just doing a short little quick demo. Let's see. Chris was saying, but heating up the solvent tank, not the tube. See, Chris, you don't want to heat up the solvent tank during the extraction because you're going to warm up the solvent during that process. You can also generate pressure, but in this case, we're just going to use nitrogen. It's an inert gas. It provides us all the pressure we need, and it makes it so that we can keep our solvent as cold as possible. There's no heat necessary on the solvent side, just pressure. Jesse was saying, LOL, it dumps fast. Yep, Jesse, it doesn't take very much to get solvent to flood here as long as we got a pressure differential. So as long as we got some force on one side, things will move. So if there's any questions in the chat right now, would be a good time to throw them down, because all we're going to be doing is waiting for solvent to evaporate here. It's going to take, like I said, maybe 20 minutes or so for things to kind of get fully evaporated and recovered. Looking down in the base here, make sure I got all my lines open. All my recovery lines are completely open, which they are. Got nitrogen closed. Nitrogen is off. You know, hindsight 2020, I probably should have heated this base up before I started, just to help things go a little bit faster. But that's all right. It'll only take a minute. We're already at almost 30 degrees Celsius over here, so we should start seeing a good boil here. Oops. So the reason I'm doing this stream today and showing you guys this nitrogen assist is because it's becoming a much more common thing in the industry for guys to want to make the sauce or make high terpene extracts, or people who are trying to do live resin runs. Guys are just pushing the extraction envelope these days, and just doing the regular old dump and flood is not really cutting it anymore. We're trying to get the most impurities out and create the highest quality oils on the market. And in order to do that, a cold solvent extraction is the most ideal way to do it. So I get a lot of people asking me, hey, how do I do nitrogen assist, or how can I do a colder solvent extraction? And truly the only way you're really going to get around it is using some form of pressure. And so today I wanted to show you guys just that nitrogen assist. I'm going to come back over here and check the comments, see if there's anybody in the chat. Bob's saying, dang, that looks clear, bro. Well, Bob, that is true because it is clear solvent. We're not doing any extraction today, so there's no cannabis oils in there, so you're not going to see any yellow gold going on. It's just going to be strictly solvent recovery today. Bob's saying, haha. Andre is saying, thank you for sharing. Of course, Andre, that's what we're here for. Brad, you got a good point over here. He's saying, I use my nitrogen to purge my molecular sieve of water between runs. Brad, that's a decent idea. I'm curious, though. The nitrogen will definitely help evaporate or push any oxygen and moisture out of that sieve that might have formed. But I don't know if it's going to dry it out. The nitrogen, I would think, would freeze it. Let's see. Baja Phil Higgins is asking me, how much material can you do at a time? In this machine, it's a 2-pound or 2.5 pound extractor. So that is the most you're going to be able to accomplish in a single run. So I'm going to come over here and see what's going on, see if things are heating up. I do have some pressure in the extractor over here still, so it looks like it is evaporating. And our tank over here has got a little bit of pressure built up into it. I'm just going to allow that to condense over here. Also going to make sure to purge the tank of any nitrogen too, which it looks like it might have some in it. Help get things to go here. You got to make sure to get all that nitrogen out of there. It's a lighter gas, so it's going to sit on the top of your tank headspace, and it's easy enough just to open up the vapor port and let that nitrogen off into, you know, the outside or into a vent of some sorts. So you guys can see there that the solvent is evaporating now. So it looks like what happened there is I had some pressure built up from the nitrogen. I didn't really fully have it evaporated. So I just bled it off a little bit to make sure that I got all that pressure out of there, all that nitrogen, and immediately you guys can see it's starting to evaporate now. So that hot water is now circulating throughout the base here. And now hot water is what's causing that to stay above the boiling point of the butane. Today we're using isobutane, and its boiling point is around -11 Celsius, or I think it's something around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So this hot water is easily making this this want to evaporate here. And immediately that cold tank over there is what's causing it to condense. All right, we got some more questions in here. Let's see. Luke is saying you got to bake that to get to them, and that's correct. So that's what Brad was saying. Uses nitrogen to purge it, but to be honest with you, what you're really going to want to do in order to get your sieve beads completely dry is you're going to want to use heat in a vacuum oven, or apply vacuum and heat to the tube of some sorts. Like getting a jacketed sieve is a really good idea. A jacketed column there, and then running some hot water through it, and after each run, pulling a vacuum on it to evaporate any moisture in there is a good idea. Brad says, it dries completely after freezing, and then I pull a vac overnight storage on the sieve. So there you go. Brad's doing a freeze and vac tech. Brad is asking me, hey, what is the model of that recovery heater? So the model of unit down there that you're looking at right over here, this little tiny box, is a VWR. Let me see what I could tell you the exact model is on the back here. It's a 1136, VWR 1136. It's a small 7-liter or 6-liter heater. It doesn't do any cooling. It just does heat, which is nice because that's all we need here is just some hot water. It's a really nice unit. I've used it for a long time for all of my extractions in the back here, doing demos, and it's been good to me. Man, we're really doing it today. I want to say thank you to all the 60+ people in the house tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. 70+ people in the house tonight. We're doing a live demo again of Nitrogen Assist. If you guys want to watch this later, I'm going to put it on our page so you guys can rewatch it, share it with your friends, whatnot. This is really a rough demo, you guys. I apologize. I'm going to do probably a bit more refined. I'm always just trying to hop on, do some live feeds, and get a little bit better with you guys. Get a little bit better at the presentation. A little bit better at explaining things, hopefully. So you guys can definitely tune in for some more streams where I'll probably be doing another coverage of this Nitrogen Assist for anybody who might, miss this stream or want to hear it again. Let's see. Mike Cerrone is asking me thoughts on a conductor coil from solvent tank instead of solvent tank on dry ice. That was actually that's a good question that you asked, because before the stream, we actually had an active recovery setup with a coil and everything. but I just wanted to slim it down. I just wanted to remove some of the complications, remove some of the time needed to explain some things. And if you're going to do passive like this with a tank, then I say just remove there's no need for a coil. Just go straight to your tank on dry ice. Okay? If you just have a coil on dry ice, you're not really going to get the performance. It's not going to go all the way back into your solvent tank. You're going to have some back pressure keeping solvent in your coil. So you really want to make sure to do the solvent tank on dry ice if you're going to do passive recovery. There's no need for a coil with passive. Some guys might do it, but if you ask me, it's not required at all. I have no problems. It's absolutely required, though, if you're going to be using a tank. A pump, excuse me, an active recovery pump. If you use the assisted recovery, then that pump puts out a lot of heat, and the coil is going to be necessary in order to cool down that hot vapor. The tank on ice does a pretty good job, but the coil is really what's going to help. Okay, awesome. He says, I use a solvent tank with a G5 twin. Okay, so if you're using the G5, all right, if you're using an active recovery pump, then yes, that coil is going to be a benefit. But if you're doing passive, no coils needed. The only thing is you know, some people say, you know, passive slower. It can be a little bit slower. But with the dialed in temperatures and enough cooling and heating going on, I think, you know what, passive is actually very performant. Okay. You can get a lot done with a passive setup if you're using the right temperatures and you got enough coolage going on. Coolage, you like that word? Cooling. Let me get you guys a close up here. So we're just boiling off the solvent, doing our thing. It's just bubbling away down there. So you guys can see how hard this is, right? This is tough work. All I had to do was turn a valve, and then it magically shot liquid all the way through all the hoses and did all the work for me. And then I opened another valve and made the solvent recover back into the tank. It's not a very difficult process. You know, it just needs a couple of, you know, a little explanation. And I think anybody can really grasp this concept of extraction or doing cold solvent extraction with nitrogen. So I hope that if you haven't, that maybe you consider going out there and experimenting with the cold solvent extraction. Go to your local gas supplier and pick up a bottle. Rent one if you have to. It can be very cheap. Rent a small bottle of nitrogen. Get yourself a regulator, and that's pretty much all you're going to need. And just throw your tank on dry ice or get a chiller that can go cold enough for a jacketed tank. Start doing some colder extractions, and I promise you, you're going to see some better results out of your product. You're going to see much lighter colors. So for anybody out there wondering, hey, how can I get better color out of my material? Colder extractions is going to be the key. And the next thing is, hey, how can I get more terps, man? Well, if you want more terps, you got to go colder with the extractions, you guys. Cold extractions is what's going to preserve all those terpenes. It's going to keep them below their boiling points. It's going to preserve them in a liquid state. And that's what's going to give you that sauce, you guys. Brad's saying, I paid $300 for the tank, the regulator, and a wheeled cart. Dang, Brad, you got a deal, dude. I paid $400 for my bottle and my regulator setup. Now, I purchased the bottle outright, so I own that bottle now. All I got to do to top it up with more nitrogen is it only costs me $24 or something like that. It's like $20 to refill this tank of nitrogen, and I'm good to go anytime I need it. That tank should last you a while. Benny is asking, hey, what is this for? This is all solvent extraction. It's all, you know, liquid extraction using hydrocarbons, and mainly for cannabis products. So we service the cannabis industry, but it also can be used for, you know, other products, other essential oils out there on the market. Let's see. He says nitrous has way many uses. Billy, this is not nitrous oxide. What we're using here is nitrogen. It's important to clarify that we're using nitrogen. And I guess I might as well explain, why is it important that we're using nitrogen? Well, nitrogen is an inert gas. So first and foremost, it's not flammable, okay? Second of all, it's not going to mix with your butane. It's not going to create a mixture of gases, right? It's going to keep them completely separated so that when you want to bleed off your nitrogen, it's not difficult just to bleed off the headspace of the tank. So first, it's safe. It's used because it's an inert gas, and it's dry. So it has no moisture in it. It's not going to add any moisture to your system. And its boiling point is extremely low. I believe nitrogen boiling point is like well below negative 100 degrees Celsius. I think it's like maybe 190 degrees Celsius. Something crazy like that. So in order to have cold pressure, right, we use a really low boiling point solvent or a gas like nitrogen. So its boiling point is extremely low, which means it's going to be a gas at a very cold temperature and keep things cold throughout the recovery, or through the liquid extraction process. So actually, you know what, you guys? I want to point out something. I got a little bit of leak. And I'm going to be honest, I want to show you guys so that you guys can see what's going on when it happens. And also I want to stress to you guys that it's nothing to get worried about, okay? So I found a leak going on, and it's in a ball valve, and I'm going to show you guys how to solve a problem like this if you run up into it while you're extracting. So let me grab the handheld camera here, and I'm going to show you exactly where it's leaking. Okay, let me switch over here. Get the close-up going. Alright, so you guys can see this. I got a leak going on in the valve handle. And now I'm going to stress to you guys why this is happening and how to fix it, okay? So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and close my valve handle and see if that does anything. It looks like it does. So if you don't know, there's actually what's called a packing nut underneath the handle of this valve, and I'm going to try and show you guys that right now. I'm going to do this with one hand here. Using my Allen wrench, just being careful here. Finding the right size. It's not that one. Can you hold this and just show the people as I fix this handle? It's not that one. Also, I'm going to shut off my valve over here just to make sure it stops recovering. Okay, so I cracked that. Now I took the handle off, okay? So you guys can see that there's a little nut underneath here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crescent wrench, which I luckily have sitting right next to me. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to give her the slightest turn, okay? 1/8 of a turn, and what that's doing is tightening the stem. There's a packing inside the stem here. So now what I've done is, hopefully, when I open this valve, is look, there's no leak anymore. So I'm going to put my handle back on here, and I'm going to take my Allen wrench and tighten it back down. Okay. And there she goes, no more leak. So why is this happening? Well, this is happening because I'm using a cold solvent, okay? And these valves, any valve that you purchase, whether you buy it from me or whether you get it from Swagelock or whatever, is going to come seated at a room temperature. So all the internal packing and everything that's inside of this, all the seals are going to be set at room temperature. Now, when you run extremely cold cryogenic solvents through these valves, the interior is going to contract, okay? And that's going to cause your joints to get smaller, your seals in there to get smaller, and it can cause a leak to happen through the only point at which it could happen is through the valve handle on these. So all you got to do is go in there and just tighten up your seals a little bit more around there, and it'll cause you to not have any leaks, okay? So that's how you do it. And now we're back in action. All the valves are open, and we're good. So for anybody watching, that's how you will identify, fix a leak during a run. And let me tell you, I can't stress it enough, you guys. It's a pretty common thing to find a leak, especially if you've never run cryogenic temperatures before. On this system, we really have not. We've been running it as just a warm system. So this is really one of the first times I've been able to get a nitrogen assist going on here. So I'm identifying a leak there in the recovery line, fixed it right away, and we're good. Now you should never have any issues under cold temperatures because we've now seeded this in a cold environment. You're really never going to find those leaks until you get it in a cold environment. All right. A Dog Lewis is saying, great stream. Love the content. Did you say nitrogen is an inert gas? Yes, it is. Nitrogen is an inert gas. That is correct. And I was right about that. So nitrogen's boiling point is negative 195 C. So it's going to be pressurized at a very low temperature. Brad, you're also making a really good point here with nitrogen. It's really good to use for pressurizing your system when we do our safety checks at the beginning. I told you guys about safety with pressurizing and vacuuming down the system. Well, with nitrogen, it's really a nice thing to use because like Brad is saying, the molecules are really small, so those gas particles will find their way out of any small little crevice that is in the system. So if you have threads that have a leak in there, nitrogen's going to seep right through those threads if there is any leak. So some water and some soap sprayed around those threads and pushing some nitrogen through it, you'll see micro bubbles easily. I'm going to switch over to the inside to see how we are doing on recovery here. Oh, I took my camera, sorry. Let's go back. How are we doing? We got a little bit going here still. I'll see if I can get you guys reconfigured again. Bear with me. I really want to get a nice tripod set up for that that shot so I don't have to hold it every time. So nitrogen is also really good to use for pressurizing the system because it won't condense, okay? So in some garages or cold environments, if you use like an air compressor to pressurize your vessels to test them for pressure, the air molecules can actually condense a little bit and you can see your pressure needle dropping. So with nitrogen, you're not going to have any of those problems. So get a nitrogen bottle. It has multi-uses in a laboratory environment. Camera kind of moved. Sorry about that, guys. I gotcha. I'm playing director and instructor all at once, so apologize. In the future, I'll hopefully have a cameraman with me. There we go. So we're really down to the very last little bit of solvent in here. Should be nothing but a couple more minutes here. Benny is saying, just tighten the packing nut while it's really cold and you'll be straight. Exactly. It's just that easy. Tighten up that packing nut, and now she's set to go. You guys, that solvent tank over there is cold. All right, with that, I'm going to take some questions. I'm going to kind of wrap up the stream because at this point in time, there's not really much exciting going on. We're just finalizing the recovery process. So all that gas is going to be taken out of the recovery pot into this tank over here. And we're going to collect all that gas back into a liquid state. And then at the end, we'd be left with our hash oils, or our extracts, what we'd be extracting. So that's pretty much all there is to it. If there's any final questions, please put them in the comments now. But we're going to wrap it up. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We reached over 100 live viewers today. That's awesome for Facebook. I don't think we've ever hit those kind of numbers. So big shout outs to all you guys. I really, really want to focus on doing some more live stream production with you guys with better lighting and things like that. I know it's a little bit rough, but we'll get it situated. We'll get it set up. I promise you. Just stay tuned. Stay loyal. We'll get you guys the content. So I'm going to flip over to Facebook here. See if there's anybody talking over here. What? No safety glasses or gloves. Please teach correct procedures. You know what, William? I'm going to give you that one, all right, brother? I'm going to give you that one. Because I left my safety goggles over here before the stream. I got caught up. So you're 100% right, my man. I should have my safety goggles. I don't know about gloves. I don't know if they're absolutely essential for this process, but hey, I guess it couldn't help, or it couldn't hurt. All right, so let's come on back here. Let's do this. How about this? Does this cut it? There we go. Hopefully that's better. Mike said, nah, don't give him that one. Don't give him that one. You know what, guys? I gotta give William that one. You know what? You should have safety in mind when you're doing this procedure. You never know what could happen, right? We're dealing with pressure here. I mean, not a lot of pressure, granted. Like, there's really not a lot of pressure in here. We're looking at 20 psi on the gauge right now. Come on. That's not really anything. But at the end of the day, the last thing you want is some sort of nut to fly off or a clamp to come disconnected or, you know, open up a valve and it shoot you with gas right in the eye. So eye protection is a must. Shout outs to William for that one, contributing to the stream today. I like it, fam. I like it. All right, you guys. I'm going to end it here. Say thank you again one more time to everybody who joined into the stream. You guys have been awesome. Participating in the conversation, asking questions. That's what this is all about. I'm here to share a little bit about what I know. You know, show you guys some tips and tricks. Show you guys the ideas, and hopefully you guys can take those ideas and expand upon them and learn and maybe implement them into your process in your laboratory or your processing facility. At the end of the day, it's all about producing better results. And this right here is going to lead you to that, colder extractions. Joseph is asking, could we see the finished product fresh out? Unfortunately, we're not doing any product today. That's the best part about this, is I can demo this whole process without actually needing to put cannabis in here. I'm just doing it with solvents. So I'm just emulating what it would be like. At the end, we got a valve down here. You could pour out your extract. Just dump it right out of the machine. But for today, we're not doing any of that. I'm just evaporating solvent. I'm going to let it keep going here. And Michael's asking, what you making? Concentrates. Well, we would be if we had flour in there, but we're not. All right, you guys. That's it. I'm Josh with Open Source Steel. I'm signing out. I will catch you guys on the next stream. Until then, have a good one. Peace out, you guys.